All right, guys, got a little something special here planned for you. So we're going to go through the entire Regiment of Renown roster for both the Skaven and for the Lizardmen. This is pulled directly from the Ever-Chosen Invitational. Creative Assembly sent this to both Turn and I as a kind of means of saying, hey, you guys went through this. Do you want it for your channel? We were like, yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to go through exactly what we covered on Ever-Chosen. It's ripped directly from this weekend's stream. I hope you got a chance to watch it. If not, I'll link it below. We will be going through each one of these rosters in their own respective video to discuss the lore of who some of these Regiments of Renown are. Some of them are completely obscure, weird references, like Natty Babos, which is like a 7th edition Skaven Warhammer Army book reference to like how like Natty Babos was able to shoot like a dwarf's neck from an iron breaker 5,000 miles away, like something ridiculous like that. But some of the other things are straight up ripped from the heraldry and uniforms book of the Skaven, such as the not the plague priests, but the plague pack, as well as even Clan Vulcan is referenced from the Great Fire Mountain. So we will talk about those in depth when I can kind of focus in on their unit cards and kind of have them on screen. But for now, enjoy this video. Have a good one, guys, and take care and enjoy everything.
Unlimited power, so the Palpatine ability.
Unlimited power.
Yeah, just cackling, and it's really, really good. But aside from that, you guys saw the abilities. He's pretty powerful in melee. He does have a relatively low ammunition count, you can see there, but that's because he has a flamethrower, and it has a super long cooldown. Yeah. Well, he shoots it out of his wrist, and if you were to shoot like a group of like Bleak Swords or Dread Spears or something like that,
it toasts them.
It'll pretty much bring them down like 40-30% in one shot. It does huge damage. On top of that, anti-large, armor piercing, fire damage, and magic damage. That's going to be the first unit. Next one is going to be the Clan Vulcan Tail Slashers. Regiments of Renown for Clan Rats with shields and fire damage, better stats. Not much about these guys. They do have fire resist, so if you happen to be facing off against a wild Iron Drake pick, they're going to be okay. But not you know, one of the all-stars so far.
Wild pick indeed.
So these guys, I think, are a huge, huge breadwinner. These are the Blightscab's Plague Pack. Plague Monk Sensor Bearers, and these guys just have great stats to boot. I mean, a little bit squishy in the armor and defensive department, but better stats than standard Sensor Bearers. They have Contaminate and Magic Damage, but what's really good about them is they have an ability called Demagoguery. So, Skaven, big leadership issues, especially to terror, but with them, you get a pretty big radius. If you look here, everything in that circle, so if you have a Death Star or a very tightly packed group of elite units, they're all going to be immune to psychology, which is very, very good. So that's going to be the Plague Pack here. We have the Council Guard, so these are the Storm Vermin Regiments of Renown. These guys have anti-large, armor piercing, of course, better stats than standard Storm Vermin. But guess what? They're unbreakable.
And the nice thing about these things is
pretty good.
From a lore standpoint, they're really awesome, right?
Oh, they're albino, too.
Yeah, all these albino Skaven were chosen to defend the Council of 13. So you have these awesome Council Guard. It's very, very reminiscent of some awesome things that we get from that uniform and heraldry book that we talked about earlier that is just ripped straight from those pages.
Next unit here we have is going to be the Rattling Gun Weapons Team. So these guys, I think, are one of the big winners.
They're so cool.
I actually think they're better than Giselles. Giselles are very good.
Think so too.
They have the range advantage, but these guys just wreck house. When they're shooting, they do so much damage. And more importantly, they have a suppression mechanic. So if you look, characters or anything that's being shot is going to be taking a 36% speed debuff, which is so good.
Right.
I mean, being able to slow down troops, it really is helpful against Skaven, who don't really have traditional cav units. So the Rattling Guns weapon team is pretty solid, and you want to take it over with this next Regiment of Renown here?
Yeah. So let's talk about the Zap Cannon here, basically. So this is Ikit's Zap Zap, and it has an awesome ability called, well, Zap. And what it'll do is if you put this thing on, say, a caster, or even, say, any version of a legendary lord for the greenskins, it's going to add a recharge ability that's going to keep stacking. So every time it hits them, boom, 10-second additional add on to that recharge. Look at this.
That guy's so cool.
I'm looking down range.
Yeah, he's pretty glorious.
So moving over here to another unit. This is just the standard Warp Lock Giselles. Now,
I like how he kicked it.
Just straight kicks like the Pavis in the back there, like, oh, keep it straight. And you've got this awesome unit here that does that shield breaker mechanic here. Now, it is different than the Regiment Renown version that we're going to talk about in a bit. And we've gone into that here. But the 300 range on these things, you've got shield breaker, which is going to break that missile parry apart. They've got AP on top of it. So these things are going to be a great threat when you're dealing with any kind of dwarves, any of those heavy lines. Yeah. Now, when you're also looking at the Regiments of Renown, you can take a look at these Teeth Breakers. Now, these guys aren't that much different than their normal counterparts. They do have an increased missile damage, but the biggest thing here is concealment bombs. This is going to be very...
that's cool.
Yeah, it's
going
to
be... scurry away and hide and come back. And,
exactly, and this is going to be the same thing for both of the Regiment Renown units here, is an ability to get away from the fight, or at least stay somewhat, quote-unquote, stocked. Because when we take a look at Nasty Bubo's sharpshooters, we see
Nasty? Did you say nasty, Boobos?
Yeah, I like that more. Natty, nasty, whatever.
Nasty Boobos.
Potato.
Yeah.
So again, you'll see that increased damage here. So it was 39 on the regular. This is a 47% or 47 missile damage. They've got snipe, and also they've got stalk. So what this means is these guys can stay in position, shoot things, and you still can't see them while they're shooting. So you see this on Way Watchers, Shadow Warriors, stuff like that. Now, in addition, we've got the Wheels of Doom. Now, look how awesome both the Doom Flare and the Wheel of Doom Regiment Renown are rad. Just covered in all this awesome blue smoke, this blue piping, electricity everywhere. Now, what this doesn't look like, it's got a lot of abilities out the gate, but this is important to note here. I think it's 200, 250 points more. And it has 123 missile damage more than your standard non-Regiment Renown Doom Wheel. Now, also, we've got some the Dwarf Thing Menace. This is the Doom Flare. Look at these guys that we were talking about. Again, blue piping all of them, electricity jumping all over the place. Now, what makes them different than their normal non-Regiment Renown counterpart is that they have Sunder armor. In addition to that, this isn't a Regiment Renown specific thing, but if you can take a look right here, we also see the best defense. Both units have this non and Regiment Renown version of this. This gives them a nice 24 armor buff, giving them a nice 100 armor. They have a massive amount of anti-infantry and AP damage. It's 65 armor piercing on these things. They're going to rip through so much stuff, and they're very hard to target. They're quite quick.
Yeah, their hitboxes are small. It's kind of similar to like facing off against a Tomb Scorpion.
Absolutely.
They're very tough to shoot.
And the Tomb Scorpion animation just drags them through stuff here. You want to talk about the non-Regiment Renown Doom Flares here?
Yeah, pretty much the exact same lower combat stats, and yeah, that's pretty much it for the entire Skaven roster. Definitely some very powerful tools. Now, as far as like real game-changing metagame, I mean, it's so powerful. These rattling guns having suppression is going to be so good against like flyers coming in, and it's so common if you have a character like Skrulk or these very squishy Skaven characters to like have to worry about a Boris Todbringer, or Toddy as he's called, to be coming in and just killing your characters. But being able to suppress them, pin them down, and open them up for more firepower from the rattling guns is going to be so damn good. And yeah, Ikit Claw, very powerful in his own right. A pretty good melee combatant. 110 armor. That is one tanky rat. Yeah. And yeah, he just does a ton of work.
Awesome power armor. I mean, and so we did talk about this a little bit, and you saw this in one of the fights already. Ikit Claw can be on a Doom Wheel. He can also be on a Doom Flare. Yeah. So like we were saying, 10-1 and Ikit Claw both have so many mount options. 10-1 can be on a Pterodon, on a Cold one, or I think a Horned one actually, and on Ancient Stegodon.
He can ride a Ripper Dactyl too.
That too as well. So I mean, there's just so many mount options for these guys. So it's gonna be pretty robust.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice addition to the roster, but you can see a lot of it is range firepower. You have the rattling guns to obviously help out with mobility and just pressuring enemy large units. I mean, that's what's cool about rattling guns. They're very good against big targets and against infantry. They have like a spray attack, but if they like get like a big armored target near them, they'll tear it to shreds. Right. And the Jezzail's obviously a little bit more consistent in terms of damage, but they don't have that huge burst. But yeah, nonetheless, Jezzail's are very good. And Doom Flayers just so solid in matchups against like Chaos, where Skaven typically can't really contest, or they couldn't contest the infantry fight. You'd pretty much always lose it, right? But now you're going to have these Doom Flayers and the Regiment of Renown,
Dwarf Thing Menace,
or the what are they called? Doom Flayers and the Doom Wheels, and you also can put Ikit on one to really just make it like a destructive force against infantry, which I think is insane. And you have Unbreakable Troops. You have the Plague Pack, which is going to give immunity to psychology with Demagoguery. You have so many tools to.
Well, and one thing that we see with a lot of chariot races, like we look at stuff like Beastmen, right? You can take Kazrak on a Beastman. You can take all of your Bray Shamans on chariots. You can take Bray Shamans on chariots, and one of the biggest things to threaten, say, your Chaos or your Dwarf races are those big chariots, those Doom Wheels. So now with the ability to have Lords on Doom Flayers and on Doom Wheels, you can really add a lot more to your army with the addition of those chariots. I mean, on the Master Warlock, you can also take the Doom Flayer and the Doom Wheel, which is of course the non-legendary Lord variation of Ikit Claw, which we haven't seen in this right now, but he does.
It's pretty hard to like want to bring that when you have Ikit Claw.
Oh, dude, absolutely.
Because he only costs like 150 more, and he has like so many cool tools.
And the big thing too is his mounts cost more too.
Yeah.
So on non-Ikit Claw, so that means that you're paying actually more to get less abilities. So that's kind of a wash there.
Yeah, absolutely. Skaven roster is certainly pretty powerful. And on that note, I suppose we could jump over and take a look at the Lizardmen stuff.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
So these are the cohorts of Sotek, the red-crested skinks. These guys, of course, do have refused to die. So for 20 seconds, it's on a short cooldown, too. I mean, you could charge them in. Now, they don't lose models. They still can take HP damage, but you're not going to be losing any models, so it makes them very, very tough to kill. And
they have Frenzy.
Yeah, and it's really cool because dinosaurs typically, or Lizardmen, I should probably call them by their correct name, Historically, I mean, if you wanted armor piercing in the front line, you had to get Temple Guard, right? I mean, you could get Croc scores and other monstrous units, but getting AP from your infantry was tough. You had to go expensive, right? But this opens up a very cheap, and it's going to be great against dwarves, just like a super wide core of like armor piercing infantry, and the cohort of Sotek definitely one of the better units. Of course, we have these standard red crested skinks over here. They do the trick. You guys have seen them in action, armor piercing and all that good stuff. And 10 and 1. Lizardman Moses here. He's got his tablet.
Look at
Thou
that
shalt
thing.
kill rats, and yeah, just he's
The
a
first
jack
commandment.
skink. This guy
Dude,
works
look at
out.
This, dude, seriously,
Look at
like
him.
it's intimidating to actually look at him.
Yeah, he's pretty great. He does poison damage. Definitely cannot complain. Star Chamber Guardians, Temple Guard Regiment of Renown. They have armor piercing, anti-large, guardian, just great stats to boot. I mean, Temple Guard are pretty much already almost unbreakable, so those guys can do some work. And we got the Engine of the Gods here. Remember this bad boy from our earlier games?
I do remember this. I do remember this quite well because you do have the awesome potent warding,
Yeah,
which
this
gives
is so good.
5% damage resistance
doesn't
around him.
Right. It doesn't seem big, but it's pretty good, right?
Absolutely.
And what is this ability? The Arcane and Configurate. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Improved
yeah.
power recharge rate. I didn't actually see this when I was playing around with it.
So this is, again, right out of the 8th edition codex. Arcane Configuration is in that 8th edition. It helps out with your Winds of Magic generation. And on top of it, they go over one more. To the resist one. Damage resist. Yeah, potent of warding.
Yeah, we saw this
did
one, yeah.
ward save in the tabletop here. So a lot of these abilities are just straight ripped from the book, and I think that's a really awesome kind of nice nod there to that 8th edition Engine of the Gods, as well as with 10 and 1, Ikaclaw, and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool unit. And we got the Sally, everyone's favorite.
Sally the Salamander.
He had a bit of a rough run earlier, but honestly, in our initial testing when we were playing a little bit, this guy's a beast. Like, I don't know if he was used to his maximum potential earlier, but very, very strong stuff. So, yeah, we got the Ancient Salamander here. Italian Spartacus doing some cheers off to the side. As it appears Steam may have been back. So
I'm not excited. We're all excited.
Yeah, we're going to be back. Salamander Hunting Pack, anti-large with their ranged attacks. These guys are very good against things like Shaggoths and Croxagores and like Minotaurs, big targets like that. Incredibly fast with 70 speed, fire damage, all that good stuff. And we'll kind of blaze through the rest of these while we get set up for the next game. We do have the Umbral Tide. This is the Regiment of Renown of the Salamander Hunting Pack. They have perfect vigor, which is pretty nice, so they're not going to get tired, and yeah, just better stats to boot. Over here, we do have the Thunderous one, the Regiment of Renown of the Ancient Stegodons. Of course, it just randomly shoots lightning and is stronger. But check these bad boys out. These are the Ripperdactyl, Pterodactyl monster beasts.
Ripperdactyl, pterodactyls.
Yeah, these things kind of like Hippogriff Knights in a way. Relatively squishy, 45 armor, 22 melee defense. But if you rear charge into the back of like infantry and like anything, they tear them to shreds.
Well, they do get Vanguard, which is really nice here, right?
Sneaky,
so
dude.
we always talk about how one of the big weaknesses of Lizardmen is they don't really have any kind of Vanguard light cav. Well, this is going to kind of fit that where they can actually threaten things in the backline very, very well with those.
Oh, yeah. Incredibly solid. We have the Powhawks Sentinels here, and these guys are the Regiment of Renown of Standard Pterodon Riders. They're painted purple, but they do also have the drop rocks of Sundering. So when they drop the rocks, not only does it do exponentially more damage than standard rock drops, but it does also sunder armor, so that's pretty neat. We have the Clossodon Hunters. These are the Ripperdactyl Arwars, and you got a little something about them?
Oh, I do indeed. So they do that anti-large versus the standard anti-infantry that you get on your normal ones. Now, in lore, the Ripperdactyls kind of get incensed, enraged when a blot toad gets thrown at a target.
So they the pilots wave toads in their face and get them on
No,
pissed?
they throw it at
the target.
Yeah,
and then it attacks.
Exactly. The blot toad is like the preferred basically not like an aphrodisiac, but it kind of I can't control myself, and they just go right for it. So that's why it triggers Rampage and a 40% buff to both AP and weapon damage, because as the preferred food of the Ripperdactyl.
Everybody loves the toad rage from time to time.
Oh.
What do we got here?
So looks like we're also going to be seeing the Ark of Sotek, the Slytherin snake machine here, just shooting snakes all over the place. It is a Vortex ability. It isn't activatable, so you do have to trigger it. But once you do, you'll see those blue little snakes kind of writhing and jumping all over the place, doing some damage to mainly unarmored, but armored units still nonetheless.
And these guys actually have Vanguard. I was like, how do they get out of the deployment zone?
So Pock, the Hippopotamus, Cold One Spear Riders here, they do have immune psychology, and they also do not have
Rampage,
which is great.
Disciplined Velociraptors.
I know, very much indeed. Clever girls.
Well, that's it for the entire Lizardmen roster there. I think
right.
it's time. We're getting messages, so I think we're going to
do it.